The member for McMahon.
Thanks very much, Mr Speaker. My question is to the Prime Minister. The Treasurer has reportedly explained to a Liberal backbench committee what he considers to be the excesses of negative gearing. Does this government have such contempt for the Australian people that it will tell a backbench committee what these excesses are but won't tell the Australian people? Will the Prime Minister now finally outline to the House and the Australian people what the government regards as the excesses in negative gearing?
The Prime Minister.
I thank the honourable member for his question, and since it's directed at some remarks made by the Treasurer, I'll invite the Treasurer to answer the question.
Thank you.
The Treasurer has the
call. I thank Mr Speaker, the Prime Minister, for the opportunity to again remind those opposite of who we certainly do not believe are engaged in excesses and negative gearing, Mr Speaker. And I'll run through the numbers just once again. 3,105 Defence Force personnel who use negative gearing, Mr Speaker, a net rental loss of 9,300. We've got 885 anaesthetists who are engaged in negative gearing, but 57,855 teachers who use negative gearing. Mr Speaker, there are 990 surgeons who are engaged in negative gearing, but there are 39,250 nurses and midwives, Mr Speaker, who use negative gearing. Those nurses, Mr Speaker, those teachers, those Defence Force personnel, those opposite think they're the problem with negative gearing, Mr Speaker, because they want to say no, you can't engage in it anymore, Mr Speaker. You can't engage in that for existing properties. In addition to that, Mr Speaker, 585 lawyers and judges are engaged in negative gearing, but 19,000 police and emergency services workers, Mr Speaker. And there's some less than 7,500 finance managers, but some almost 35,000 general clerks who use negative gearing, Mr Speaker. So, Mr Speaker, what this side of the House understands is that mum and dad investors, people are out there working hard every day, trying to provide an opportunity for their future. We think they deserve a fair go when it comes to negative gearing, Mr Speaker, and they should be able to continue to do that, Mr Speaker, as they have been doing it, Mr Speaker. Those opposite disagree. Those opposite think the right policy for Australia in this economy, when there's pressure on investment, when global times are uncertain, they think the best thing they can do for the economy in this country is to put on a big tax on investment, Mr Speaker. And more than that, what they want to do is do it in such a way is they want to take 1 in 3 purchases out of the real estate market, Mr Speaker. 1 in 3 purchases out of the existing property real estate market, Mr Speaker, and say to everybody in the house that they own, that when you try and sell that on, Mr Speaker, you'll be selling it to a smaller group of people. You know, confidence is so important in our economy, Mr Speaker. Those opposite should know about that because they eroded confidence in our economy and Australians' confidence in the economy every day they were in government, Mr Speaker. But we understand that for Australians to have confidence, they have to have confidence in the home that they've invested so heavily for and they've sacrificed for, Mr Speaker. Those opposite seem to think that's an excess. That's an excess, Mr Speaker. On this side, we don't. We know that it is Australians who every day are enabling—